Boy, she is very passionate about the 3 R's of parenting: respect, responsibility, and resilience. Dr. Debbie Gilboa is a family physician and a parenting expert. She travels the world, and she is here to talk about building one of those R's, resilience, in your children, even when it means bursting their happiness bubble. Thanks so much for being with us, Dr.
Thanks for having me.
So talk about, there's a lot of bad news out there, and we talk about it all the time. Do you share this stuff with your kids, or do you share a little bit?
So there's a couple of things to consider when you're trying to decide something that isn't going to touch your family necessarily directly. Should I share this with my child? One is, if it's going to touch them in some way or they're going to hear about it, it should probably come from you, because you can help them start to process it, right? You can help them start to look at it in a resilient way. One of the hard things about our 24/7 news cycle is there is a lot of bad news, but one of the great things about our 24/7 news cycle is we hear the humanitarian stories that happen after a tragedy. We hear about the heroes. And so that's a great way to point out to our kids that there are hard things in life, but then there are people who respond to that with such good character.
So talking about, say, like locally, the Chardon shooting or any of these other shootings that would touch the kids personally, could worry them quite a bit, but then it's also stuff that they might be hearing about from school. So you say, let them hear it from you.
Because you want to always be your kid's expert, or their guide to finding a good, reputable expert. And if they only hear about it at school and you don't mention it, or they hear you talking about it to another adult but not talking to them, then they're going to think, oh, this is a topic that's off limits between us. Or I should protect you, the parent, so you haven't heard about it and I don't want you to be sad. I care about how you feel. We want our children to always see us as their first expert in any situation.
Talk about now when it's something close to home. And I know with my kids and everything that we experienced with the accident in our family, I didn't know if I was doing the right thing, but I always felt like I had to tell them everything. I needed to be very honest with them. I also felt like, personally, I couldn't hide anything because they'll know better. They'll know my reaction to things. And then I didn't want them worrying, going, Mom's not telling us everything. So I told them everything. I share still to this day everything with them. Is that good or bad? So when people are going through divorces or the loss of a job, or grandma has cancer, or might be dad or mom, these are big things for kids to deal with.
They are big things. And I think the first thing as an adult is to process our own first reaction on our own, or with someone we can really lean on, even just those first few minutes, right? So our kids aren't responsible for the weight of all of our emotions, and we can then take a breath and focus a little bit on their emotions and helping them process. But I think telling the truth is crucial. Our kids, if something is going to shake their foundation, we need to shore up the foundation they have, that they can trust us to be there with them and to tell them the truth. With younger kids, we're going to give it to them in smaller pieces, in developmentally appropriate pieces. We know our children. We know how they process things and how they might be able to handle things. So we don't have to tell them the whole truth at each moment, right? But we should never lie to them. They should know that they can really count on us to tell them what's going on and to answer their questions honestly.
I worry about maybe them becoming worriers too much, because then I notice if ever someone else picks them up from school and it's not me, still to this day, almost 2 years later, they get nervous, they get worried, they'll start crying. What's wrong? What's going on? And so I always make sure I send a message to school saying, please tell them I am okay, everything's fine.
And you can understand that that's completely appropriate, right? That is their stress from being after this trauma, and in some ways still in this trauma, right? So it is going to affect our children's lives. But if there was a way to protect our kids from every bad thing in the world, then I would travel the country talking about how to do that. But it's not possible. So since it's not possible to protect our kids from every bad thing, as a parent, we have an obligation to help them learn how to get through bad things.
And I guess, too, on the flip side, if you protect them from so much and you keep them in their happiness bubble,
they will be shocked and betrayed by life.
Really interesting, yeah, no doubt.
And so this way they say, okay, when bad things happen in our family, we talk about it, we look for resources, we try and find ways to make a positive impact. And I know that because we've done this before. I know what happened when my grandma got sick. I remember what happened when my dad got deployed or we had to move. We talked about it as a family. We expressed how we felt, and then we looked for positive ways to move forward.
I tell the kids every night before we go to bed, we can continue to let this destroy us, or we can let this define us and make us better. That's the only thing I can do to tell them right now.
And, you know, please God, not every family is going to face something as difficult as what your family faces, but we are all going to suffer from adversity. We're all going to have bad things happen. And so teaching our kids that they are strong enough to manage it, even when it's hard, is a real gift.
Interesting. Will you come back?
Absolutely, I would love to.
When you're in town? And you have so many books, a series of books, right? Where can we find them?
Those are on my website. and they are actually activity books. There's a book, Teach Resilience, which is just 50 different activities that we can do with kids when things are going fine, actually, to help them learn that they are good problem solvers and they are resilient.
We have to say she has 4 boys under 11 years old, so she knows. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
We'll
I
be
really
right back.
appreciate it.